Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. In the last one we finished off Wonderland, and now it's time for us to go finish off Olympus Colosseum.
Hey, how'd you get this? Can we enter the games now? Well, I guess so. We start with the preliminaries. Ready for the prelims?
Yeah, let's go.
Some real weirdos signed up for the games. Better watch yourself.
Can you tell I don't know how to do a Danny DeVito impression, by the way? So this is where Olympus Colosseum's structure and overall purpose in the game will become clear. It's actively our combat arena. For the main story here, we just need to do a couple rounds against some Heartless before we do 2 specific bosses and then we're done. This is ultimately the shortest world in the game just for main story, outside of maybe Destiny Islands if you just bum rush that without doing extra fights against the Final Fantasy characters there.
You're no heroes yet, but you ain't doing bad. Lucky you came to me for coaching. Something tells me he'll be a tough one to beat. Who knows, maybe you'll end up facing him.
Obviously, we've seen a lot of Final Fantasy cameos as it is already, including Aerith herself. But of course they'd be silly to do a Final Fantasy Disney crossover without bringing in Mr. Final Fantasy himself, especially given Kingdom Hearts 1 was only a single-digit number of years after 7 release. So while this is ultimately the shortest world for main story in the game, if you're doing all the side quests, this ends up becoming one of the longest worlds, because as we go throughout the game, they're actively going to add more cups here for us to face various Heartless and other bosses in various setups here. But that said, there's not too much in the way here for right now, but we do actively have a new Heartless here. The Red Nocturne's blue cousins. These are Blue Rhapsodies. While Red Nocturnes focus on fire, Blue Rhapsodies focus on ice, and if you hit them with fire magic, you actively get some tech points out of that. Attack-wise, they'll either spin around their hat in a circle, which is a physical attack, or they'll shoot an ice crystal that homes in on you. Largely, they're less threatening Red Nocturnes in my eyes, but that said, I do think they're ultimately easier to get the tech points off of, if only because fire, you know, homes in on them and all that. Now, it is largely because we have other versions of this world to compare it to in later games, but if there is something about this version of Olympus Colosseum that really stands out, is that the cutscenes do feel kind of haphazardly placed.
Oh, say, you're better than I thought, kid. Wish he was here to see this.
Who?
Hercules. He's a hero if ever there was one. Too bad he's out visiting his father.
And thus our rounds continue. In the meanwhile, let's go back to talking about voice actors again. Specifically, in the last part, we saw the villain of the original movie, Hades. He actively retains both of his voice actors from the film. In English, he's voiced by James Woods, and in Japanese, he's voiced by Kusako Shimada. Shimada, in specific, largely only ever voices Hades whenever he shows up in something, though I think he was also in Inazuma 11 at one point, apparently. I largely recognize him for being in movies outside of being voice work. Like, I think he was in the Devilman movie from 04, I think he was in Kamen Rider the Next, and I want to say he was in Shin Godzilla. James Woods, on the other hand, there's a lot to unpack there. I'll save you most of my personal thoughts about the guy, so just sticking purely to his voice work, he largely reprised Hades whenever they needed him, including in the Hercules cartoon, but I think I remember him most being Fillion Benedict in the Recess movie, as well as the Falcon and Stuart Little too. He acts the asshole really well, and there might be a reason for that. Most of the fights here aren't too bad, but just in case, I do recommend stocking your inventory full of potions and all that, or going over to Deep Jungle and finishing it to get cured, just to make things a little bit simpler for you in the long run.
That little punk is your next opponent, okay? Now don't blow it. Just take him out.
The great god of the underworld is afraid of a kid? Sorry, but my contract says...
I know! You think I don't know? I wrote the contract! I know it says you're only required to kill Hercules in this tournament. But you gotta fight that kid to get to him. Come on. Hey, it's like that old goat says. Rule number 11. It's all just a game. So let loose and have fun with it. I mean, a casualty or two along the way. It's no big deal, right? Jeez. Stiffer than the stiffs back home. Still, suckers like him are hard to come by.
Now that we've actively heard him speak, let's talk about Cloud's voice actors. In English, he's voiced by Steve Burton, who voice work-wise only ever really played Cloud himself. He voiced the character starting here all the way up to Dissidia Final Fantasy NT in 2018 before the remake trilogy recast him. While I do really like his current VA, Cody Christian, in the remake trilogy, I do find myself missing Steve's voice here and again. Steve Burton's main role in his acting career has actively been as a series regular on the soap opera Days of Our Lives. Cloud's Japanese voice actor is Takahiro Sakurai, who's another one of those VAs who's in everything under the sun and has really big roles. Outside of being the VA for Cloud, period, in Japan, he's Tentamon in Digimon, Sion in The Bouncer, Monkey Blue in Ape Escape, Kiyomaru in Zatch Bell, the voice actor for Mega Man X starting from Command Mission to modern day, Haseo in Dot Hack GU, Kanda in D-Grayman, Jonathan Morris in Castlevania, Suzaku in Code Geass, Crow Armbrust in Trails of Cold Steel, and that's just brushing the surface. If you like an edgy sword boy, he's probably played that edgy sword boy. Speaking of which, time for us to fight Cloud himself. He's not too difficult, assuming you've gone for some other worlds first, but if you come here first, he can be a bit of a nightmare. Attack-wise, he doesn't have much going on at the moment. He's largely just going to do a 1-2-3 combo with the sword, which I guess is sort of meant to be cross-slash. He does one vertically, then two horizontally, but you can repel that with a well-placed Keyblade Strike. This is sort of a fight you need to pace your hits on, because if you try to do more than even 2 hits in a row, he's probably going to try and guard the rest of your combo, but he's very open from the back if you, say, let Goofy try to bait him away and all that jazz. Magic is also pretty good. Otherwise, he's got Sonic Blade here, where he'll do several dashes straight forward in a row, generally trying to home in on you, and he can also follow them up with Claim a Hazard, where he'll do a strike upwards and then downwards to the floor. Not a lot of health, but be careful with that Sonic Blade. It can combo you pretty easily.
Right, there was one other rule. I forgot. Accident happened.
Hey, Phil! Get them out of here! Huh, that was close. That was Cerberus, the guardian of the underworld. Herc should be able to handle him. But then again, maybe not. Yeah, this doesn't look good.
But hear me out. What if I do?
I hope Herc's okay. Wish I could go in.
But what if I do after I save? I also take a moment here to rearrange my accessories and all that because I want to have as much defense on Sora as I can for this upcoming fight, but it really just depends on what you want to do. I don't showcase me doing this too much in the LP, mostly because I just put the best ones on Sora, period. In the games, the only thing you can hurt is your pride. Fight hard. You can forfeit at any time. Fight as much as you like. That's technically true, but I don't often do it.
Kid, you're not entering the arena, are you? This ain't just a match, this is for real.
I'm not afraid. You can decide if I'm hero material or not.
Careful, kid.
Kid, I got 2 words of advice for you. Attack!
Meet what's otherwise the hardest boss of the first 3 worlds. This is Cerberus. Cerberus is constantly on the move, and that's part of why this fight's so rough to deal with, outside of the already hard-to-reach weak spot, like with Trickmaster. Attack-wise, Cerberus has 2 variants of biting attacks, namely you can either do it with 1 head at a time or all 3 at once, and he can even combo that a couple times in a row. He can stomp on the ground just doing a shockwave in a circle around him, but you can largely avoid that by getting on the bleachers on either side of the Colosseum. But then there's his spells. First off, we've already seen him use Faraga Ball, where he just breathes fire at you. That's actually the thing you want to see him do the most, because if you time a Keyblade Strike well enough, you can reflect that right back at him to either stun him or at least do big damage. Then there's the Darkness attack, where it's going to breathe a bunch of dark energy into the floor. At that point, every few seconds, dark energy is going to try and pulse from below you. If you just keep on the move and dodge roll out of the way, you don't need to worry about it too much, though. The big thing is trying to do all of this dodging while actively trying to attack Cerberus. There are ways you can get onto like his back with a well-placed jump and all that, but frankly, I'd recommend just staying from a distance if you can and trying to reflect the Faraga balls back at him, which admittedly, an ability I just got comes really handy for Guard. If you press the square button while at a standstill, you'll just do a guarding motion with your Keyblade, and that can also repel projectiles back, just like a strike can. If anything, guard is more effective than just a random Keyblade strike, because I think it has more frames where it can actively impact and repel projectiles like that. Worth noting, I got guard at level 15, and that's because I chose the Dream Shield at the start of the game. If you chose the Dream Rod, that's where you get Scan, an ability we've talked about previously, while Dream Sword users get Counterattack, where if you do repel an enemy attack with a standard Keyblade strike, the attack command in the command menu will quickly change to counter, which follows up the parry with a faster physical attack before the enemy can usually reset their own guard. Usually. Worth noting, it's also a guaranteed crit, so it's a pretty good ability, but I have to wait a while before I can get it on this specific playthrough. And because I did mention it earlier in the LP, at level 12, all routes also got a new ability. And this playthrough, because I chose the Dream Shield, I got Tech Boost, which doubles the tech points I get whenever I get any at all if it's equipped. At level 12, Dream Sword users get Slapshot, which we got all the way back in part 2 or 3. Meanwhile, Dream Rod users get Ripple Drive, which, if you're surrounded by multiple enemies, your combo finisher becomes a large AoE that does damage, I think, relative to your maximum MP. Pretty good universally, but for some reason I tend to forget it exists, if only because I think it's a little slow on recovery. Cerberus can definitely be a very aggressive boss, but if you just play the keep away game, he goes down pretty quickly all the same. The Inferno Band gives the equipped person 2 extra defense on top of a 20% defense boost against fire and dark elemental damage.
Thus, I do hereby dub thee Junior Heroes and confer upon thee full rights and privileges to participate in the games. Further...
Hey, what do you mean, Junior Heroes?
You rookies still don't understand what it takes to be a true hero.
So, what does it take?
Well, that's just something you'll have to find out for yourselves. Just the way that I did.
No problem. We'll start by proving ourselves in the games.
There ain't gonna be any games for a while. Gotta clean up the mess from that last battle first.
Okay, we'll be back.
I still can't believe that Squirt actually beat Cerberus.
Just between us, I'd already worn Cerberus down by the time the little guy jumped in.
My lips are sealed.
The hero license is just a key item that's going to sit in our inventory, but hey, nice to have it. It's nice to have some sort of official form. And hey, look, we even have a friend over here waiting for us. How you doing, Cloud?
Hey, are you alright?
Yeah.
So, why did you go along with him anyway?
I'm looking for someone. Hades promised to help. I tried to exploit the power of darkness, but it backfired. I fell into darkness, and I couldn't find the light.
You'll find it. I'm searching too.
For your light? Don't lose sight of it.
How about a rematch sometime? Fair and square, no dark powers involved.
I think I'll pass.
Cloud just gave us the Sonic Blade ability, which is in effect our first limit break. By equipping it as an ability, and for the cost of 2 MP, you do upwards of 7 stabs forward with your Keyblade. It starts just as 1 stab forward, but there's 6 additional triangle prompts after that to get up to the 7 hits. I think it goes off starting with Sonic, then 5 Raves, and then you get Blast at the end of that. Very good damage for early game, especially on the Dream Sword path, not for nothing. What helps is that you're actively invulnerable during the first strike of it.
He's strong. He's kind. He's always there for you. And he's handsome to boot. He's perfect. Perfect.
Perfectly infuriating. He makes me crazy.
Wait a minute. What are you worried about? All the pieces are in place. Relax. Whoa. Here's what you do. Let Hercules train the kid. In the next games, I'll take care of them both. Who invited you to the party? Stay out of this. This is my show.
As you wish. Fight to your heart's content.
And with that, we're now completely done with the first 3 worlds, so our first goal is to head back to Traverse Town. As we speed our way back into Traverse Town, though, let's talk about Herc's VA. Hercules in the movie is voiced by Tate Donovan, but he does not actively reprise his role here in Kingdom Hearts 1. He does in later games. Here in Kingdom Hearts 1, he's actually voiced by Samwise Gamgee himself, Sean Astin. I guess he's also Mikey Walsh in the Goonies, but I've never actually seen the entirety of that movie. Voice work-wise, otherwise, I mostly know him for playing Raphael in the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series and any further reoccurrences of that version of the character. Meanwhile, in Japanese, Herc is voiced by Yasunori Matsumoto, who also voiced Robin in the Japanese dub of Batman the Animated Series, Bob in Reboot, Double in Mega Man X4, Havoc in Full Metal Alchemist, Guy in Tales of the Abyss, Gory in Slayers, and that Kakyoin-looking dude from Resident Evil Revelations. Now, worth noting, I've waited until now to come back to Traverse Town. There's actively new things you can do here almost after every single one of the first 3 worlds just because of the new abilities or spells you get along the way. For instance, we can actively start with one over here. They say there's an underground cavern on the outskirts of town. Keep that in mind for later. You might remember earlier when we talked to her, she mentioned that you might need magic to put out these candles, and that's the case. You need to use Blizzard to take them all out and take them out quickly to be able to finally open this chest over here. And within is a defense up, which is going right into Sora because it's kind of a waste to put that into Donald and Goofy, let alone putting it into a Disney World exclusive party member. Like putting that into Tarzan, complete mistake. Next up is a very small attention to detail that does pretty much nothing mechanically outside of being nice attention to detail. You can actively light the fireplace here in the accessory shop on fire. For years, I thought this did 2 different things. When I first played this game, I thought it was actively part of opening up the second floor of the accessory shop, which we'll be able to access down the line. But no, that's entirely tied to being able to do the green trinity we can see in the accessory shop. And at another point in my life, I thought it actively made the treasure chest that we got on the roof of the accessory shop back in like part 3 or 4 spawn in, but no, it's there by default as we've already seen. The only thing that actively does is make it so that smoke leaves the chimney of the accessory shop. So at this point, we're back in the 3rd district because I want to do something over here using the Thunder spell, but we also have a new Heartless type here, Air Soldiers. Similarly to the Red Nocturne and their cousins we've seen thus far, Air Soldiers largely stay airborne, but similarly to their other cousins, the actual soldiers, they focus entirely on physical attacks. From a distance, they'll either try to tackle you directly or do a downward kick on top of you, but up close, they'll either do a couple of different punch varieties or a side kick that's generally pretty easy to avoid. They're most dangerous when they're in groups, especially if there's some away from your camera, because they might try to blindside you in a lot of cases. Get used to seeing them, though, because they're going to be a focus for a lot of what remains in the game, honestly. So the main reason I'm here in the 3rd district is actually that pipe there in the corner that has a wire on it. I highlighted this on our way back to the 1st district towards the end of our first visit here to Traverse Town. Now that we have the Thunder spell, we can target it and use Thunder on it to activate something elsewhere in the world. Specifically, it's tied to a specific area in the 2nd district you may have entered already, may not have, depending on what you're doing. For right now, my first goal is to actively head back to the Dalmatian house, actually. At this point, we've actively saved enough of Pongo and Perdita's puppies to get 2 rewards from them, the Kiragaji and the Faragaji. We get those for 12 and 21 puppies, respectively. I remember as a kid not really thinking that it was worth getting all the Dalmatians, especially because some of them were hidden in comparatively obscure locations, but now that I'm an adult and understand how all the game's mechanics work, the final upgrade alone and reward from them is completely worth it. So if memory serves, we have been in this room before. This is the Gizmo shop at the back of the 2nd district. I'm speeding this area up because there are a metric shitload of Heartless that spawn in here, and I don't want us to be here for a quarter of a part on its own. Now that we've actively struck that wire back in the 3rd district with the Thunder Spell, the mechanics in here actively work, and we can actively do the puzzle in here for the reward that this room ultimately contains. Is it comparatively minor? Yes, but I'm doing as much in this game as I can, so hey, I gotta show it off. In order to get the main items in here outside of the treasure chest that I think is hidden up here somewhere, we want to get on top of the 3 little sections of raised wall and press the buttons on top of them. Upon doing so, the clock opposite of where I was just a moment ago will actively start moving, and once it's actively stopped moving, we can investigate it for the reward. Something I have found weird though, the clock gets stuck before you get the item, and it actively gets stuck at specifically 6:54. As far as I know, there's no significance to that, but there's a lot of very specific shoutouts to times in Traverse Town, specifically if you investigate the paintings back at the hotel. And I think there's some fan theories about what those represent, and especially when it comes to like reflecting Sora's journey, but I think it's not really anything super important. For doing that, we get 2 more postcards to send in and the 1st district. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 11, we're going to continue on at Traverse Town before I believe starting to access our next set of worlds. See you guys then.